asking government for transitional protections because that will help constituents. Avi, who is here again in the chamber today, tells me that the support offered so far is smooth offboarding process and CV building. Doesn't sound like transitional protection. Can you update Avi and his TfL colleagues where you've got to on transitional protection with government?
Can I just say hello also to Avi, and thank you for your hard work for TfL. So can I, after this meeting, Chair, let the member know the response? I know the Deputy Mayor for Transport, Seb Dance, wrote to the relevant minister. I've just lost track of I'm sure there was a response, what the response was. I'll share that response with the member separately. I'll make sure that TfL do what they can to support the constituent.
Thank you. I mean, I think I'm completely out of time. So, but I think we need more from government. It's a very, very cruel visa change, and that really needs changing and challenging. And I hope that you can do more to challenge it.
And I should add, through personal experience, that there is some movement within the TfL family on those issues, and I think that's much welcomed from where we've had movement. But there's still more that can be done about the processes, the internal processes.
If you'll indulge me, I think the TfL is not the issue. The issue is the government transition stuff, which I'll follow up with. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going back on the clock. It's me. It's tackling domestic abuse.
Thank you, Chair. Can I also thank you for this question, particularly this time of year, for obvious reasons. Violence against women and girls, VAWG, is a national epidemic, and reducing high levels of abuse and the number of victims is one of my top priorities, as it should be for everyone. And I welcome the government's announcement today of policies to reduce by half violence against women and girls by the end of this decade. There is no doubt that tackling VAWG is a serious challenge and requires a public health approach to work together to address its root causes. That's why I'll continue to work in partnership to challenge the culture of misogyny that exists in our society, and that includes doing more to understand and address the concerning rise in harmful content and influences online. From City Hall, I've overseen investment of over £233 million to help tackle VAWG by preventing it from happening in the first place, by funding work to support victims and survivors, and by intervening with perpetrators to hold them to account. The Met have set out their own commitments to tackling VAWG through their VAWG Action Plan, which they've been delivering on since 2023. They've allocated additional officers and staff to public protection roles and are directly targeting perpetrators through their VAWG 100 approach. Operations Ateria, the national operation to improve rape investigations, is a great example of where London has been influential in tackling VAWG. The Met were a pathfinder force, and MOPAC hosted the research programme, with the programme now being adopted nationally. In London, we're seeing positive results from this new approach to investigations. However, I'm aware more needs to be done, and that's why I'll shortly be publishing a refreshed VAWG strategy that builds on the work already delivered and sets out my priorities for the next 3 years.
Thank you for the answer that you've given. Your scheme, which I think you've actively promoted, but within the MPS on GPS tagging domestic abusers, has led to a 45% reduction in reoffending and 63% reduction in violent offences amongst tagged offenders. So how will we now ensure that we're going to roll this out much, sort of scale it up and roll it out across London to deliver even better results?
Chair, thanks for putting on record those excellent stats. Every stat is a woman who's probably not going to be a victim of domestic abuse, domestic violence. That otherwise wouldn't be the case. Children won't be traumatised and so forth. So it's qualitative difference to the lives of women in London. So we did the pilot over 2 years. And the good news is the previous government recognised the success of the pilot, and to give credit where it's due, the previous government's MOJ agreed to roll this out, and the new government's taken that on board and scaled it up. And this is an example of actually policies that can continue over a government changing, that are good policies because they make sense. So now all domestic abuse perpetrators who are released in London are eligible for this. He'll be aware the Commissioner last week raised his concerns, though, about the theory and the policy not being the same as the practice. And I support the Commissioner in raising his concerns about not everyone who should have a GPS tag is having it put on. When there's a breach, is a follow-up as good as it should be, and the burden it's putting on the police as well. And so we've raised those points with the Commissioner's raised those points, which I fully support. So we are trying to make sure those are addressed as well.
And you've rightly alluded to the problem about the seasonal nature of some of the abuse that takes place in leading up to Christmas and the pressures on those victims who feel they've got no one to go to. So what can we do in terms of providing additional support or information of where people may seek further help and support from others if they're facing domestic violence?
Chair, can I say, in advance of Mayor's question time, because I knew the question from Senator Moema and your question, I knew what the questions were going to be, I just checked what we're doing over this Christmas period. And so the first thing is, on the GLA website are the numbers of the National Domestic Abuse Helpline, the Pan-London Domestic Abuse Service, the London Survivors Gateway for those experiencing sexual violence, the London Stalking Support details for those experiencing stalking, and also support for those experiencing harmful practices. So, I'd encourage you to signpost anybody you know to the GLA website. It's a one-stop, all these 5 phone numbers. Secondly, we're reminding all nighttime venues about the provisions in the Women's Night Safety Charter. And just again to remind colleagues, if they know anybody who is going out about the night, remind them of the provision to ask for Angela if you're worried about a man causing you problems inside a venue. By the way, the police are also trained in relation to ask for Angela. So if you are the victim of domestic abuse and you are with your partner and can't ask for help, you can use a way of asking for Angela. And there are other advice out there from excellent victims and survivors group. And just to echo your point, which I've tried to make, is this time of year in particular, because, combination of drink and men being at home more and so forth, there is an increase in domestic abuse and domestic violence. And, whatever we can do to raise awareness and to minimise that, I think, is a good thing.
Well, I hope we could all play a part in that, in following some of that information, advice that can be given out, because it will help at least some people who see it. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to the next question is in the name of Assembly Member Cooper, and it's sustainable timbering construction.
Can I thank the member for her question? I'm proud of our track record in delivering the housing London needs, but we know that due to a perfect storm of factors right now, the country, including London, needs to build more new homes. It's therefore right to consider the role that timber and other sustainable materials can play in helping to deliver the homes that London needs, but clearly we must do this while ensuring the safety of Londoners. 8.5 years ago, we witnessed a horrific fire in our city at Grenfell, and that awful incident showed that what happens when combustible materials are used in the external walls of our homes. It was right that the government then banned combustible materials, which includes timber, in the external walls of buildings over 18 metres and restricts their use over 11 metres. In London, we went further, and my social and affordable homes programme extends this to buildings of all heights, which is the right approach to keep Londoners safe. We've seen numerous low and medium-rise fires since Grenfell, and there remains outstanding gaps in national regulations such as the testing and certification regime, which does not sufficiently control for the risk of unsafe materials being used on external walls. However, these requirements do not prohibit the use of timber in the internal structures of homes, so long as they are not present in the external wall. The funding guidance for my 2636 Social and Affordable Homes programme makes this clear. That's because I recognise the sustainability benefits of construction products like timber. The 2021 London Plan introduced a requirement to report on whole life cycle carbon for the first time. For the next London Plan, we're looking into various options for developing this policy further to reduce embodied carbon and encourage more sustainable choices for new development. The Government Timber in Construction Roadmap 2025 sets out some priority areas of focus, and one of these is investigating fire safety and durability of mass timber. I'll continue to work with the Government to monitor progress in this area and ensure the goals of building the safe, sustainable homes London needs can be best met.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And